What's up, bass campers? Today I want to make a Serum patch from scratch and show you how I go through resampling it and getting some cool clips like these. So let's hop into it. Here's Serum, got a blank and knit patch. And what I'm going to show you first is how to resample inside of Serum, and specifically in each oscillator. So we're just going to use one oscillator today, and let's just crank the voices up, and we're going to get this really wide and just really full and rich sound. Shout out to AU5 and his videos. He showed me how to do this. I'll play a link to his channel in the show notes. So let's get into it. Unison at 16. We're just going to go pick a random wavetable. I like to use stuff with like a bit more just like some shit going on. So this one looks like it's interesting. Let's hear what it sounds like. Yeah, cool. So let's just put an LFO on that. Slow it down a little bit, turn it to trigger. This makes it so you can, on each keystroke, we'll trigger at the beginning. That's what we want. So that sounds pretty cool. So what we're gonna do is go up to menu here, and we're gonna go to resample to oscillator A. And what that's gonna do when you click that, it's gonna resample everything we had over here. So we had it 16 voices and nothing else really. So that was pretty much it. So this new wavetable is gonna be that original wavetable, but 16 voices thick. So if we were to play this again with nothing changed, you're going to hear the original wavetable sampled, and then the 16 unison is being added to that. So now we got like way more voices. So let's bring it out to 1. So you can hear now it's just all kind of consolidated into one wavetable, and it's coming through in mono because the unison has been flattened to the wavetable. So let's just crank this again to 16. Sounds pretty cool. Let's just resample that again. You can hear it's just getting like a little bit more rich every time. And one thing I like to do is put this random knob down, and what it's going to do is start phasing things. So you can hear it starts to just have this like flanger almost effect. And I like to bake that into the wavetable. So what we can do now is just click that again, go over here, resample to oscillator A. And now we're gonna have that baked in. So if we put random back up, we'll put this to 1. You can hear that phasing is baked into the wavetable. So you get this really cool effect you can go in and mess with now. So now that we've done that, we can go over here and we can smooth it out a little bit. So we'll go, I clicked this little editor icon in the wave, and then we can see the whole wavetable sample by sample here. And we're just gonna do some quick processing. So X fade the edges, meaning it's just gonna fade volume, so there's no real like clipping or anything between the samples if it changes too abruptly. And that first one's it's a pretty big jump, so let's go. So let's stick to that little section. That sounds better. We can normalize the volume of each. And it's still sounding a little distorted. Let's try to morph it and crossfade it some more using spectral. So it sounds pretty cool. There's some, like, you can tell there's some artifacts in there as you sweep through the wavetable. Sometimes I like that. Sometimes it can get annoying. So I just kind of process again and again until it kind of disappears. And sometimes it doesn't. This is like more of a trial and error type of process. You kind of have to mess around with this resampling. And I'll link to the AU5 video where he shows you what all this stuff does, because it's actually really interesting. He does like remove a fundamental frequency, and we can try that real quick here. So let's stick with that. Let's go forward with that sound. So there's just so much stuff you can mess with now inside this wavetable, so just messing around and scrolling through, you can find some really cool little tidbits. So let's add some sub. That one sounds pretty good. Add some more movement with the filter. I usually like doing some like band reject or something like that, so let's just mess with this. That sounds pretty cool. So you can also add this to like the resonance. So sounds pretty cool. And let's get some processing going. So in the FX tab, let's add a multiband compressor to bring it all together. Sounds pretty fat. I hear some kind of annoying resonance somewhere in here, so let's find it. Right there. So that's pretty ugly. What I like to do, a little trick, you can just notch this and then give it a little bit of movement around that area. So not only are you EQing out the ugliness, but you're allowing it to like move around there too. So that kind of fixes that problem and also creates more movement for us. And then here we can add a little bit more movement with like a boost and give it that fat sort of growly stuff that we all like in the mid and the low end. So that sounds pretty good. And maybe add a little bit of distortion. So very subtle, nothing crazy. Automating the mix and the drive so you get that grit at the troughs of LFO2. And that's probably all I'll do inside Serum. And I wouldn't call this sound ready to go yet. I would do some post-processing, but it's good to just get it sounding decent in Serum first. Some people like to like add all the effects and doing all that stuff in Serum, and that's cool, but I think sometimes it gives you more control doing some of these things outside in Ableton. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this mix down on the compressor down to like 20, and I'm going to add my own OTT in Ableton so we can get some more fine-grained control of the different bands. And then now that we got that dialed in, let's get some like an EQ going before it and get some of this ugliness out. And I'm just poking around here looking for stuff that's not really sitting well with me. And cut some of that top end off. So I like that. That sounds pretty clean. So what I do now is I would hop in here and just draw some MIDI patterns. So let's just do like a... Looks like that doesn't like that key. All I'm doing is shift up and down here. And let's just drag this out over the whole thing and add some pitching, because this is where you can get some really cool tonality in a sound that might not be as fat as this, or maybe it is, but either way it's gonna give it some more character that we can sample later on. So we'll go down and then all the way back up. And let's do, so we have this set at a bar. Let's put this at 2 bars so we get some slower movement. And I'm moving this around because we slowed it down. You can kind of hear the individual samples a little bit more. So making it longer will allow it for to hit the same speed we did at 1 bar. So sounds kind of crazy, but I think it's ready to be resampled. So let's just resample that real quick. Here we go. So now we have this audio. And we can go through and find little pieces we like. So I like that. Usually I'll make like a little track below and just drag the little clips that I like down here. So I like that. So yeah, I mean, now we got some cool stuff to work with. And we can do more stuff here too. Like we can add some Yo Man, classic. And that's why I like to leave it somewhat simple up here in the patch, because when you start resampling, you can add effects and add different colors to the different clips as you're creating a drop. And then it'll just kind of, it'll allow more flexibility later on. And you can see here also that the waves aren't severely compressed. So now you can come in here and you can add like limiters and stuff to really bring the sound in after you add some effects. So like, let's just do that real quick. A limiter here on this particular sound. You can see how like over here, the levels the stereo is kind of like not level off at the it's not clipping anywhere, right? And clipping, what I mean by clipping there is not hitting red, but it's not hitting something that's like shaving everything off past a certain point. So that limiter is going to make both the right and left signals hit and max out at one simple or one steady point, giving it like a more cohesive sound. You don't want to do this too much because you want it to have some stereo movement, but here I'll show you what I mean. So you can see here, if we click over to this view, we still have movement going on, but it's both sides are maxing out at a certain point, and that's going to give you that fatness. And if we had compressed it too much in the beginning stages, it would be more difficult to add more effects and then get it to that perfect level here, which is more mixable, right? And yeah, so now we can have this guy without it, with it. And when you're making your drop, it just helps. You can do like little fills that way that sound a little bit different. So I know we started with the Serum patch, so I'm gonna put this Serum patch, and I'll even make this whole thing into an Ableton rack, and I'll put all this up for download in the description. So check down below for the link. And if you have any questions, I know I kind of went through this patch a little bit quickly. It's hard when you're designing not to just, you know, get into it and go quickly when you're baking these things. So if I went over anything too fast or anything's confusing to y'all, let me know, and I'll dive into it deeper, either in another video, or if you just have some questions, let me know, and I'll get back to you in the Instagram DMs or wherever you send me stuff. So thanks for watching, guys. Hope this was helpful, and we'll see you next week. Peace.